So welcome everyone to our series on intuition, how we can not just receive things on a random basis, but how we can actually practice and hone our intuition, and we can call it up on demand, if you will. We can ask for particular messages to come through. We can strengthen this part of ourselves. So a lot of HSPs and empaths will receive intuitive knowings. And today we're really going to focus on what it means to receive that intuitive knowing from your heart chakra, from your physical heart, from your energetic heart, and what that means and how that's a little different than receiving information from, say, your third eye or even your logical mind. And so the card that really wanted to come forward today, let's see if I can show this. It says, beyond the mind, the heart beats. Right, so this is sort of our heartbeat in resonance with all of the cosmos and DNA. There's so many, really great imagery here. There's a nest, where things get incubated, right, in our mind and our heart. So this really wanted to come forward today, and I have a confession as we as we get ready to dive into this topic. I did not make any notes whatsoever. A couple of days ago, I was like, oh, usually by this time, when I know I have a workshop on the weekend, I would have sat down, something would have flowed through me, I would have written notes or at least bullet points or something. And I kept getting worried about it. My mind was really concerned. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to teach? And my heart said, just stay there in the moment. Just show up and teach from the moment. So this is an exercise and an example of where we can enter into radical trust, right? Radical self-trust, where we know that we have enough information, we have enough wisdom, we have enough inner knowing and confidence to be able to just get on and to speak from that place. So that's what I'm going to do. And I don't know what I'm going to say yet. And I don't know exactly where this will go or even how long. But when it feels complete, I will just finish, and then we will go into our confidential sharing part of this program. So, it's interesting because a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to interview the director of the HeartMath Institute. Really fascinating conversation that we had. And in that, he shared with me that they have scientifically measured the electromagnetic field of the human heart, which is thousands and thousands of times larger, more expansive, and more influential, if you will, than the mind. So given that, we might wonder, why in our modern society do we sort of worship the mind, the intellect, information, rather than knowing, rather than connection, right? And I thought a lot about this, on a personal level. And I spent a couple of decades of my life with my heart very closed off. Like many empaths and HSPs, I experienced some trauma early in my life. And because of that, I didn't trust. I didn't trust myself. And I didn't trust other people. I didn't trust the world. I thought that the world was just going to be dangerous. People were going to have some kind of other motive beyond just trying to be nice to me. Like, what do they want from me? And this is really common when a sensitive person has been through some things in their life. It's very common for us to shut this down. And what that really felt like for me, and it may be different for other people, is that I felt kind of numb. Right? I felt kind of numb. I felt like I couldn't really show what I felt inside. I really couldn't even access that. I didn't even have any way to understand what I was feeling. So I knew that I felt angry sometimes, or sad, or even happy, but I couldn't actually express it. It couldn't exude out of me. I had sort of put this big wall around my heart. And I was very defensive. I was very guarded with other humans. I didn't allow myself to be seen. I didn't allow myself to be vulnerable. I just tried to kind of think my way through everything. Right? So if I could reason it, if I could make a list, if I could just take action and do things, I didn't really have to address what was in here. And it was a lonely existence, I have to say, as I think about it now. I didn't have hardly any friends. Or if I did, it was more superficial, right? It wasn't a deep relationship where people are seen and you can be authentic. And it felt really lonely for me. And it was a long process for me to recognize this, first of all, when we have our heart shut down, we have to recognize that this is what's happening. And then, I needed to take responsibility for the fact that although I didn't create those old situations, those traumas, I was responsible now for allowing that to open, for allowing my heart to blossom and open itself. And it was a lot of different things that allowed me to do this. It was putting myself out there a little bit at a time with people that I felt might be safe, and realizing that there were really great, wonderful, reciprocal, healthy relationships that I could engage in. It also involved doing a lot of energetic work. I realized that my chakra system was completely out of alignment. And there were times when I was living just in the lower chakras, like I wasn't even getting up to my heart. I was living in my root at survival mode. I was living, sometimes in my sacral chakra, which was creativity. But again, and that being sort of connected to the heart chakra as well, my emotions were really shut down. And even my solar plexus, the seat of our willpower, our confidence, our work in the world, our ability to take action, it was coming from a place of needing to prove myself rather than just being who I am. And so it's been this long process to begin to open myself. For a long time, I didn't even understand how to go from here and drop my attention down into here, right? That's even a practice in itself. If there's just one thing that I would recommend that anyone who's listening to either here live or on the recording, if you are feeling this constriction in this part, I recommend actually just practicing dropping your attention down into your heart, right? And allowing it. Oh, give me a second. I'm just going to mute, make sure everyone is muted. Okay, great. And so when we begin to practice dropping ourselves down, right? We have a lot of energy here, because HSPs and empaths are so deep of processors. We process everything. We look at every angle. We look at every circumstance. We look at every possibility that could happen, every timeline in the future, right? We can get very caught here. And sometimes I would even float out of my body and be way out here. I wouldn't even be in my body whatsoever. So dropping ourselves down and entering here, asking questions from this place, is a practice. It takes time, it takes commitment, it takes energy, right? And for a long time, between my shoulder blades, my body hurt all the time. There was tension, right? I always felt tight and constricted right there. And I didn't realize until I studied with one of my mentors that that is actually the backside of the heart chakra. Okay, so the backside of our chakra system is where the energy comes in and we receive, and the front is where we give the energy out, right? So I had a much easier time of opening my heart and giving the energy out, helping other people, than I did receiving. The receiving was constricted, right? And so sometimes I even do back exercises where I'm just opening that part of myself, opening it here and then opening it here, so that I can get that flow, because we're not just meant to give, we're also meant to receive, right? And so when we look at the heart as an energetic nodal point between the lower chakras and the upper chakras, so then we go to the throat, right? Our ability to express ourselves, to to communicate what's important to us, to hold our boundaries, to do all of these important things that we do as empaths, and also to receive information, right? So the back of the throat chakra, we're actually receiving information from the world, from other people, from our friends, our family. And we get to decide, what is it that I want to receive and what is it that I want to extend in terms of communication. And then we go into the third eye, which is a really powerful area of knowing. Right? We can often receive divine downloads that come through the crown chakra and into our third eye, and boom, we'll have a flash of insight. And that's really exciting. We might get an image, a vision, it might come through as a dream, so these things that we receive in our mind, in our third eye, seem a little more concrete often than the heart. The heart is a deeper rhythm. It's a deeper rhythm. It's sometimes subterranean. In this card that I was showing here, the card of the behind the mind, the heart beats, it's talking about how we're tapping into that deeper subterranean rhythm. Something that may not even be able to be put in words. It's just a feeling. It's just a sense. Could be an embodiment, right? And so this practice that we have of dropping down and asking. So let's talk about when this could be really important. I find that it's really important to tap into my heart when I get into a space that my mind will not shut off, right? My mind will just keep ruminating and ruminating and ruminating, and maybe I have a choice to make. Or maybe there was a conflict I had with a person and it's really bothering me and I don't know how to move forward. I don't know what the right action is, right? And no matter how much I think, or even how much I try to receive, I cannot figure out what it is I need to do next. I'm just stuck there, right? Because the point is, I'm not supposed to figure it out. I'm supposed to tap into what is already present in the space. And so by dropping down into my heart, and sometimes all the way down into the rest of my body, I receive things that are surprising. I receive insights that I may not have ever recognized if I didn't take that journey. And we see in our larger world, as we as individuals practice opening ourselves, being vulnerable, allowing people in, receiving, as we practice these, tapping into the heart to make important decisions or even minor decisions, we're role modeling what this looks like for the collective. Because right now the collective is very involved in, we need to talk about the facts. We need to talk about, here's the statistics. We need to talk about all of this. And it's been beautiful because, especially in the world of STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, we've made enormous progress as human species, right? Medically and all these different ways, going to outer space, all the things we're doing. And that would not have been possible without the mind, right? We need that. We need those resources. But along the way, we kind of got cold, is just the way I'll say it. A lot of our world feels kind of superficial, so kind of cold, kind of businesslike, kind of all up here, kind of transactional, even, if you will. And the heart is transformational. This is where we really do the work, because this is the intersection between our axis that goes into the earth and grounds us here in our physicality, and the part of ourselves that reaches and expands up and sees ourselves as a part of all that is, source, God, universe, goddess, whatever you call that. And then there's the heart goes at the horizontal as well. Because when we get into this space and we open our arms wide and we begin to do, we begin to take action in the world, it comes from this space rather than this space, right? We don't have arms up here. We have arms here at the heart level where we can open them and we can embrace things and we can offer things and we can put our hands out and we can help people who are just a few steps behind us. And so this is why the heart energy is so, so vital. So when we begin to explore how big, how expansive could that heart energy be, right? We know that it's thousands of times larger than our mental energy, but how many people could it touch? You know, one of the people on this call shared that they wanted to be able to communicate more deeply with animals, right? And so if we approach an animal from the mental state, and I've been around a lot of animals, I grew up on a farm, very, very connected to spirit animals. If we approach them from this place, we begin talking to them, begin, trying to get closer to them. Generally, they'll move away, right? They'll be on edge. But when you stand and you extend that generosity, that connection, when you affirm that here you are with another being, right? Another valuable, worthy being, an equal, because I believe animals are equal to humans. Something changes. They stay. They can feel that energy. When you sit and you pet a dog or a cat or a bird or whatever it is that you're interacting with, there's something different when you come from that space. When you extend that heart energy out, when you give them their space, when you allow them to show up exactly as they are, and you show up exactly as you are. We're not trying to be anything, we're not trying to force anything. And this works for other human beings as well. Because often when we're there and we're holding that space and we're just being a loving presence, an empathic presence, things in the entire room can change. We don't need to do anything. We can just simply be. We can just simply extend that out. We can extend compassion to all the people in the world who are suffering without having to then backflow that into our heart and take all that energy on and feel responsible for it. But we can witness other people. We can witness their growth. We can witness when they stumble because we stumble too. We can witness all of this, and the heart is beautiful for doing this. It's amazing. It's an incredibly powerful tool. And so let's just sit for a moment, whether you are live on the call and you like to turn your video off and just kind of get into your own space, or you're watching this, you can find a space just to connect, just to sit comfortably, just to sense in. And you'll notice that you're thinking things, right? We're always thinking things. There's always, it's like a slideshow. It's like a movie. There's always a narrative going on in the mind. And it's okay. I recognize that. I acknowledge that. And then I'm going to just imagine that I'm taking my energy and I'm moving it down my nose, right? Slowly, slowly, starting to shift your attention. And down past my lips and my chin, and down to my throat, just acknowledging the throat chakra here. Very strong, powerful tool for us. And then dropping down to your physical heart. A lot of times it also helps me to put my hands on my heart and just feel in and sense into that space, that energy. It's almost like holding myself, right? Holding my heart. And then just breathing in, breathing oxygen to your physical heart, breathing energy into your energetic heart. Feeling that expand. You can even release your hands, feeling that energy just expand out in all directions. Filling the room around you. And you can ask powerful questions. You can ask, what do I need to do in this situation? What is the right choice here? How should I respond to this person's request? Where am I supposed to go next? What is my next step? And then you can just listen. So we're going to listen for a moment to that subterranean rhythm of your heart. Likely you may even be able to feel it beating inside your chest. And there are times when I can feel my heart and it starts to beat more rapidly, right? And I realize, oh, I'm experiencing some anxiety here. And I breathe and I slow it, right? I slow it. There are times when it feels very, very slow. And maybe I feel kind of lethargic. And then I intensify my breathing. I say, okay, it's time to speed up now. We need to take action. So you can work together with not only your physical organ, but also this energetic chakra point. And take a moment now to drop down to the back of your heart, right between your shoulder blades. Just noticing, how does it feel there? How are your muscles and your tendons and your spine feeling at this back side of your heart? Is there any message calling out for you? Is there anything that wants to shift? And then we're slowly coming back into the space, feeling our fingers and toes, slowly opening our eyes. We can even thank our heart for beautiful message that it brings forward to you. And this was a very short exercise, but you can spend as much time with your heart as you wish, and anytime you wish. You can just pop into your car and get into this space and dive into your heart space. You can go into the restroom. You can just take a moment, even if you're at an event or at work or wherever you are, you can just take a moment to tap back in. And I find that this is really helpful when I get into the ego space, right? When my mind starts to argue, when my mind starts to try to defend itself and wants to fight about things or wants to run away from things, I find like, okay, now I have moved completely away from my heart and it's time to reconnect. It's time to get back in. It's time to tap into my soul essence and be present. And so this is a very, very simple way for you to receive that intuitive knowing. And oftentimes when you do, there are things that you can do that will help you to cement that information, whether you like to draw or play music or dance. You know, the heart is a very, very receptive to creativity. Right, so it works in conjunction with the sacral chakra, and you can actually embody that here in the world. You can say, okay, I'm going to make something physically that's an expression of what I've received. You know, whether you like to write or you like to paint, or you like to go walk in nature and connect with animals, you can set yourself up into this vibration that creates expansiveness, right? So the heart wants to be expansive. It doesn't want to be contracted. Now, there are times, for example, when we experience grief, that our heart does become contracted. But it's not meant to live that way all the time. And as sensitives, because we pick up so much around us and we can pick up this energy from our heart chakra, we might have that tendency to close down, to put a barrier around it. And we have to consciously be aware that we want to release that, to open that. It doesn't mean you don't want to set boundaries when something is not working for you, when it's not safe, when people aren't respecting you. But most of the time, can we live from that open-hearted place? Because it changes everything in your life. And as you do this inner work and as you do this energetic work and this work with your physical heart, everything in your outer circumstances begin to change. Different kinds of people show up, different kinds of opportunities, things that feel aligned for you will come in because you have prepared yourself. You prepared a vessel for all of that goodness And this is about learning to receive. And sometimes it's about asking for help from others. And sometimes it's about giving and helping others who need help and have asked you. And so it goes around and around. It's a circular process, not a linear process. The logical mind tries to figure things out, and it has to be step 1, steps 2, step 3. The heart knows that there really is no time and space. There really is no separation. It's all one. And this is a place that we can go to tap into that, particularly when the world becomes overwhelming, when we feel anxious or scared, we feel nervous about a decision. This is a place we can come. It's safe. And this is where we begin to create safety in our own body, in our own chakra system, instead of looking for that safety outside of ourselves. We look for it within, and we can drop in, right? So this is a part of why the heart chakra is so, so important, and why we can receive this knowing from that space. I encourage you to take some time every week or even every day, just a few minutes to tap into your heart. And you're welcome to share with us. I know some of you will share on the call, and then those of you who are watching, you're welcome to share in the comments how this is impacting you. Just having this focus, this different focus than maybe you usually are. When we get so busy and we're doing our to-do lists and getting all those things done, how do we drop in and really get connected with that part of ourselves that is intuitive and empathic and compassionate and loving, and can exude that energy out into the collective?
I really liked this talk. When I was younger, I wrote some poems about the temple of the intellect and didn't like that. Thought that it was the big things people worshiped, and that wasn't right. But I felt alone in that. I felt different, and now I don't. But I will try some of the exercises about the back, dropping in and then giving, because I do a Buddhist mantra, the loving kindness one, and I send energy, but I don't send it from any particular place. And now I can send it from my heart, which is the best part of me.